Esports presents the Night Racing League Sports Car Championship. Hello everybody and welcome to Northamptonshire for the Night Racing League Sports Car Championship, race number 1. We're on the Grand Prix circuit at Silverstone. This is the start of an 8-race championship where we'll run on some of the most exciting endurance circuits in the world. And we've got 20 drivers signed up for this championship so far, 16 of them on the grid here today to contest the first race in this series. That means there's lots of space for you if you want to get involved. If you're an A or B licensed driver between 1,300 and 3,000 I rating, come and join us on the grid. Just apply to the Night Racing League in iRacing. But as we say, it's 16 drivers here. We have 6 LMPs and 10 GTEs. The first time we've had the GTEs all together. It's, of course, very difficult to get people during the week when you have 9 time zones spanning the grid. But we've got everybody together here today, and we can't wait. The practice times were super close. So without any further ado, let's check out the starting grid for today's race. Nathan Jew puts it on pole for the LMP2 class with a 145.364 beside Lars Watzik, the final exhibition race winner, a 145.793. Paul Seeley lines up inside row 2 in the Night Racing Esports car with a 146.377 inside of Andreas Schwartz in the 204. Jaden Manathan Garin is in row number 3 and he'll line up beside the 429 of Dean Ellico. The GTE pole sitter Alexander Schleicher with a 155.981 inside of Tristan Teresiano in the 64 Porsche, a 156.297, just 1.5 tenths ahead of Kevin Hensel. Then it's Hayden Fowler in the number 28 Corvette with double exhibition race winner inside of row 3, Connor Seidel beside Craig Salter from the UK. Mark Sonnen lines up beside Leighton Cater, and it's John Nielsen and Chris Thompson rounding out the field. And as we wait for the grid to form up here, it should be a great race. We've been waiting to get Nathan and Lars together. They've been the top 2 in the field. And we're just about 15 seconds away from the grid to form here for race number 1. An incredibly packed GTE class as well. Very, very exciting to get everybody on the grid here. We run the WEC points, so it's 38 points for the win, and they go down from there. The top 10 all get points. Anybody finishing still running at the end in endurance. In the endurance format, we'll get a single point. Today we have 10 GTEs, so it's going to pay right down as long as they're running at the finish of the race. And here we are getting formed up. A bit of a new start procedure because of Club Corner so close to the line. The GTEs today are going to be started by the pole sitter. That's the only difference in the regulations for this race. Usually everyone goes on the green lights. That's what the LMPs will do today. And as we said, it's 90 minutes for this first event. Looks like we're just waiting for one car before we get rolling here. And there we go. Hayden Fowler, the last to the grid. And here we go for 90 minutes at Silverstone. Been almost 2 months in the making with exhibition races and practice sessions. And we get ready for the opening round of the Night Racing League Sportscar Championship. Nathan Jew will lead them around Club Corner. And we're off. And a great run for Lars Watzik on the outside, and he will take the lead as we head through Farm and into Village. The 31, Lars Watzik. As everybody slots in behind, Seeley is third. Jaden Monathan-Garin in fourth. Andreas Swartz has dropped to fifth place. As we look back to the GTE start, that is Alexander Schleicher, pole sitter, away in the 108 as they head down the Wellington Straight for the first time, followed by Tristan Teresiano, Hayden Fowler, and Kevin Hensel. Jaden Monathan-Garin in fourth, tracing down Paul Seeley. And the GTEs. Man, it is great to see them all together on the same circuit. We've been waiting all month for this. There is Connor Seidel, who won both of the exhibition rounds in the 25 BMW, currently running in sixth place. Just behind Craig Salter. Tristan Teresiano now coming under a little bit of heat from Hayden Fowler, who's moved up to third place. And maybe a move into club, just getting settled in. Tires cold. On board with Hayden Fowler in third place as he looks at the leaders. The GTE's not disappointing. We thought this would be a close race. Just over a second separating the top three at the moment. Meanwhile, up front, on board Nathan Jew, our pole sitter, who is right on the gearbox of Lars Watzik, the winner of the second exhibition round. As they make their way through Beckett's and onto the Hangar Straight. Battles all over the racetrack. We'll get our first representative lap times here as well as we complete lap number 2. As the GTE field is now a 4-car race. Watzik there a 47.1, but it's Nathan Jew right on his bumper, a 46.998 that time around. Multi-class racing, there's going to be a lot to watch. Tristan Teresiano in the beautiful KCR Porsche 911 RCR. As the GTEs come around, a 56.9 for your race leader, Alexander Schleicher. Hayden Fowler and Kevin Hensel keeping them both honest as we've got a 4-car breakaway here in the GTE class. Now let's take a look at the start. And you can see Nathan Ju there on the inside. And it looks like he just slowed up a bit, maybe to get to pace car speed, and the lights caught him out. That gave Lars a little bit of an advantage, and he took that as he headed into Abbey, taking the lead. We're going to look here at the GTE start. And they sorted right out. This looks like Teresiano just wanted to have a clean run, dropped behind the leader. The rest of them were all pretty much 2x2. Nice and clean, though, as everybody got through. And we've got to move here. Kevin Hensel on the inside of Hayden Fowler down into Stowe, and he will take 3rd place. Meanwhile, back up front, Nathan Ju, and all over the back of Wozniak. Lap times absolutely identical the last time around. Corvettes, which did not look overly competitive in the practice sessions coming up. They did a lot of work, and finally on Thursday, it started to come together for them. And you can see Fowler and Hensel have picked up that gap and are still holding right on the back here of the 2 Porsches, all 4 of them together. As we head into Copse, Nathan Ju now really looking for a move at the front. I will take 90 minutes of this, thank you very much. This looks like it's going to be an incredible battle as we jump back and forth between the close runs. Back on board with the pole sitter as we're in through Luffield and up to Woodcote. How long is he gonna? He looks like he's pretty racy. It looks like he wants to get that lead. We'll see if he's just trying to force Wozniak into a mistake or if he's actually going to make a jump here. We know this circuit is left front tire limited. They have to take care of it. We'll see what the strategies are, if people are going to take tires here. At the moment, it looks like they're just pushing for it. They're going to go racing. It's a 4.8 second gap back to Paul Seeley in 3rd. As there is that gap, Manatham Guerin still in 4th, with Schwartz in 5th. Dean Ellico, 11 seconds behind the leader. Still watching that gap back with the GTEs is a 1.2 second advantage for Schleicher over Teresiano. Fowler dropping back a little bit. And our exhibition leader, Connor Seidel, starting to put some pressure on Craig Salter. There's Salter in the only Ferrari in the grid so far. You see Mark Sonnen in behind there. As the camera picks up our leaders coming onto the hangar straight. We know it'll be a two-stop race for the LMPs, but as we've seen in the exhibition runs, strategy is up in the air. And none of these guys do the same things. So we'll see what happens. Tire wear will come into that. How they fuel the car around that tire wear will be interesting to see. The GTEs, this can be a one-stop race. They, of course, have a 75% fuel cell. But with not too much fuel savings, they could make this a one-stop race and avoid having to come down for a splash and go. So we'll see how that turns out. Remember, it's also a low incident point race. Incidents, as Jude has a lead here. He was taking a look. And we're on board. He's inside. They've got the Porsche of Chris Thompson in front. Watson keeps his advantage. So that maybe tells you the answer to whether or not he's content to sit back there. Tried to use the traffic as a pick. Didn't quite work out as he came through left field. But certainly the pole sitter looks to have a little bit of pace here if he can find a place to get by. He was 2/10 quicker on that last lap. Nothing into club. As Wozniak and Nathan Jew now 6 seconds ahead of the third place car. The Night Racing Esports Dallara P217 of Paul Seeley. Have to watch those track limits there, Nathan. Doesn't look like he got one. Just watching the incident points. Leighton Cater right now has already accumulated 4 points. A lot of other drivers with 1, but pretty clean otherwise. Of course, this is a low incident limit series. Drive-throughs at 8x and then every 6x. So not only do you have to be competitive, you have to be precise. And it's what makes the racing so good in this series. You can see this is actually the closest battle on the racetrack, and it's for the LMP2 lead. We're just looking around. Salter and Seidel are still close in 5th and 6th. Just about 1.5 seconds. They're racing for 5th place in the GTE class. Kevin Hensel is now pulled up within a couple of seconds of Tristan Teresiano as well. In the GTE, so we'll watch those battles, but this is the closest one, and it's for the race lead. As they come up now on John Nielsen in the 54 Corvette. on board with our race leader, Lars Watzig. Next in line is Leighton Cater in the 199 Corvette C8R. Leighton had a tough week here. Things that happen, we strive to make this the most realistic series on iRacing, but things that happen in sim racing happen. Leighton's house got hit by lightning earlier in the week and blew up his all his internet equipment. So he was unable to practice, couldn't get in any track time with the rest of the field all week. It only got fixed late Friday, so he is really here. Talk about cold. But hanging in there, running 8th in class. And really just a test session for him here today. You can see his teammate, Hayden Fowler, up in 4th place, basically with the same setup. He's had all the track time, though, and Leighton will be there for the next race. And we also should put a shout-out to Keith Rainey, as we're talking about the weather that went through the southern United States. Keith Rainey also not here. We know he's watching. Hey, Keith, we'll see you in a fortnight at Le Mans. Taking care of some things that have to be done when some stuff goes through your area. Keith, based on the exhibition races, will be right up in that 3rd place area, if not challenging. A little bit of a flash there as they go by Mark Sonnen. And they're now getting through the meat of the GTE class. Still less than half a second. Don't even need to tell you the gap. As Lars comes up on the 25 of Connor Seidel. 6th place in the BMW. And again, Nathan Jew uses the opportunity to get up alongside in Luffield. But Lars has the pick. Craig Salter next in line. Just a little flash. Make sure he knows there's 2 cars coming. The quality of driving in this series is outstanding, as you can see from the broadcast. Car contact, dive bombs, it's non-existent here. These guys run as real race car drivers. It's a fantastic series. If you are in the qualifications, come and join us. I have to think this is the best sports car championship for mid-split drivers that you could find. And we've got lots of grid slots open. Come and race with us. Hayden Fowler in the 28 as they get him on the main straightaway. We've completed 10 laps. One hour, 11 minutes to go in this 90-minute event. The series runs 90-minute and 2-hour races. It'll be 2 hours in a fortnight's time, 2 weeks, when we hit the Circuit de la Sarthe at Le Mans, France. The race leaders now present themselves as Watzig gets by in Brooklands. And having to wait until coming out of Luffield is Nathan Jew, and that will open them up for the first time. The gap up over a second now. We'll see what Lars can do with this. The first time he's had an advantage here since the race began 20 minutes ago, and he goes by. There's his teammate, who is also leading the GTE class, the switch-it cars. Schleicher and Watzig are race leaders here. And the gap almost 2 seconds. Ju will get by before on the entrance to club. And now we'll see if that pace advantage, now that the tires are seated in and warmed up, we'll see if that pace advantage is still there, because the gap is now 2.23 seconds. We expect pit stops anywhere between, well, guys can, we know it's a two-stop race for LMP, so we've seen some guys split it into thirds. If they run a full 75-liter tank down to the end, it'll be close to 38 minutes. So in the next 10 minutes, we'll start to get an idea of strategy as our GTE class, now within a second, Tristan Teresiano is pulling that in. As we check out, there are the two Porsches just now going into Woodcote. And you see the third place LMP Paul Seeley now just making his way through the GTE leaders. Gorgeous sound of that RSR as it blasts by us going into Maggots. Seeley by, no problem. And a fast lap you see up on the left top right there, a 1:46.6 for Nathan Ju. He is definitely closing that gap back up now that they're on clear track. Under 2 seconds now. We'll see how long it takes for Nathan to get right back on the gearbox of our race leader. Jaden Manathan-Garin getting through on the second place car. A little bit of a late break. You lose that downforce, you're offline. Not very, not as clean as he'd want to, but lots of space given, and he should be easily by here on the Wellington Straight. Bit of a battle coming up here. Andreas Schwartz now has really closed up this gap in traffic. So we're going to have a run here for fourth place. Schwartz was the fourth place qualifier. Jaden got by him on the first lap. And now it's very close up front. Nathan Ju has closed that gap completely up. And it is game on once again at the front of the field. We're still watching that battle for fourth place. We'll jump to it. It's about a 1 second gap. Schwartz on Manathan-Garin. This is the battle for the lead. And a 1 second pickup by Nathan Jew on that last lap. And he's got the toe down hanger. And a little bit of a look. And the 81 gonna make it stick. We've got a new leader. On lap 14, coming back at him is Lars Watzik. And he'll retake the lead. Fantastic stuff. And a little bit of a wiggle on the rear end as he tried to get the power down there in club. Chris Thompson well out of the way of this battle for first. And another jump into Village. Nathan on the inside, but as they go to the loop, Lars will have the inside. And back in the lead. This will not be helping the tire wear, I can tell you that. But we're loving it here. Little wide on Kops. These cars likely, well, 10 minutes at most away from pit stops. As we enter lap number 16. We just got a replay from a couple of laps ago. Let's have a look at this. And that is Lars Watzik there in club. Caught a little bit of curb with that left front. And we're hearing he might have a little bit of damage. We saw what hitting these sausage curbs did to Kevin Hensel in Barcelona. Actually had to retire the car. There was so much under-tray damage, he could not fix it. And we're just hearing that there's a little bit of a push has developed in that 31 car. So hopefully not too bad. His lap time, well, he did a 47.5. Now, we know Nathan Jew has done a 46.4. That's the fast lap of the race at the moment. A 146.472. So we'll just watch that. Lars has done a 146.5. So he's a second off that pace at the moment. But I'm sure some of that has to do with Nathan being so close to him. And Nathan pulls off to the pits. So we have our first pit stop of the day. Having said that, Leighton Cater is also in the pits. So with 1 hour and 1 minute to go, this makes it look like Nathan is going to split this race into thirds. We'll check the pit times. We're back on the battle for 5th place in GTE. This is Craig Salter and Connor Seidel. 19 seconds off the class lead of Alexander Schleicher. He's got a 2-second lead now over Tristan Teresiano. As the Porsches are battling it out in front today. And Nathan's still in the pits. just now leaving. 24.8 second stop, so that is fuel only as he rejoins. So we have our first driver to blink in the LMP class. That has dropped him to the back of the field. And a 47.1, the fastest lap that time around. You see it highlighted in blue there for Lars Watzik, trying to extend his gap now that he has clear track and no pressure for the first time since the green lights went on. We crossed the 1/3 distance mark, 59.50 to go in this race, less than an hour, as Connor Seidel continues to try and work on Craig Salter. Closest battle on the racetrack right now. Here is your race leader in GTE, Alexander Schleicher, in the 108 as he puts a lap on Chris Thompson. There is Tristan Teresiano. Lap time's pretty consistent between these guys. A 58.2 last time around. Salter actually has the quicker fast lap between these two drivers. He did a 157.989 as opposed to Seidel's 158.144. So nothing really between these guys. We mentioned Chris Thompson a little earlier. I made a joke in the last broadcast about Chris and the plain white car he had. I just made a joke about him having a livery reveal for the first race. There's Chris now in the 66 Porsche. Well, oh, and he's gone off there. Sorry, that didn't mean to highlight you there when things were going that way. But Chris got back to me, and this is actually the race livery of a Dick Barber Porsche 935. It raced in the 70s. And sponsored by a very good friend of his. Let's just get back outside. There we go. This car had many famous drivers, including Paul Newman. And this is the Roger Norman Racing livery, sponsored for 3 years. And was actually the race winner of the 1978 12 Hours of Sebring. So how is that for a livery reveal? Great to have a little bit of racing history there. Thanks, Chris, for sharing that with us. But there is your livery reveal for the 66 Roger Norman Racing Porsche RSR. As we get back to this battle for GTE. Only 2 cars to pit, 1 in each class. Nathan Jew, our pole sitter, now tracking down the field. You can see he had a 24.8 second stop for fuel only as Watson comes by Mark Sonnen in the number 3 Corvette. Sonnen running in 7th. This is the closest battle on the racetrack right now as we await the LMP pit stops. There's the 3rd place car of Paul Seeley. I say the 3rd place car, of course 2nd, because Nathan has made a pit stop. Seeley, actually the fastest car on circuit that last time around, a 47.115. As he's tried to keep pace with the leaders, but it's 12.8. There's a definite speed gap between these the front two today and the third and fourth place cars. Nathan Jew with that outstanding 145.364 at qualifying. Replay here, another curb strike there. That Tristan Teresiano, our second place car in GTE. Club corner, one of the more difficult corners on this circuit, as Seeley dives to the pits. Our second car to blink here at the end of lap 19. And this should be pretty close. I would expect the rest of the LMP field in the next lap. Lars Watzek now coming up to this battle for 5th place in GTE. And that's going to hold him up a bit. We'll see where Seeley comes out in comparison to Nathan Jew, who I believe is just gone by. There he goes, yes, down the main straight, so he will not make up any ground. Nathan had a pretty short pit stop there. Seeley is out and rolling, a 24.5, so 0.3 of a second quicker stop. That will be fuel as well. And he has pulled himself back out in 6th place. We'll wait for the pit stops to sort themselves. But he's about 15 seconds behind Nathan, who made that early stop just before the 1/3 distance mark. And into the pits is race leader Lars Watzek in the 31 Dallara. Jaden Manathan-Garin will follow him in as all the LMPs are coming in. I would expect Schwartz and Alico as well when they come around to club. Schwartz is in. Dean Alico goes around. We saw this in Barcelona. He was getting exceptional mileage. And Dean Alico will momentarily take the lead of this race. And he is going to do a 20-second lap. As Lars Watzek is taking tires. So there you go. He's going to take tires on this first stop. And then go to the end. So we know Nathan Jew and Paul Seeley did not take tires, and they have passed him now on circuit. He's away. Jaden is away, still on his original tires, and Andreas Schwartz is also taking tires. There we go. We got the camera unfroze. So there is your race leader, Dean Ellico, in the 429. We expect him to be coming in right now. And he is after lap 22. So great fuel mileage by the American there as he gets it down to 55 kilometers an hour. And we're back on board Lars Watzek, who has now dropped to 5th place. That will be a net 4th as they all go by Nathan Jew, who has just passed Ellico, who's still in the pits. It's actually a very close battle there between Watzek and Guerin. Seeley goes by and takes 2nd place. He's actually made up a spot here. Of course, Watzek taking tires. We'll see how that affects his pace. He should be able to come back in. Ellico drops now to 5th. He is also taking tires. As we go on board with our race leader in GTE. So there's Watzek in the 31, who has lost 2 positions with his tire change. Seeley and Manathan Guerin electing not to change rubber. Ooh, and just pushing out wide there. Just a look back here, just a couple of laps ago, that's Andreas Schwartz. That would have been just before his pit stop, having a bit of a lockup there going into club. As we're back live with Jaden Manathan Guerin, now the 3rd place car, the 777, but he has got Lars Watzek all over him. Lars on fresh tires, they'll be up to temperature, and as we head into Stowe, that will be that. The German back into 3rd place. And we can see now with some clear track, it is a 15-second gap up to Seeley. So we'll see what those lap time differences are. We'll get his first representative lap here since he came out of the pits. 3/10. And also had to make a pass for position, but we'll see how he starts to close that gap to the 72, still on his original rubber. Kevin Hensel here, up to 3rd now. Oh no, he was always in 3rd. Fowler in 4th. The GTEs will likely be making stops in the next 5 minutes. Actually, Schleicher is in now, and so is Teresiano. Hensel right in behind, so all the GTEs coming in now with 45 minutes in. Just under the halfway mark. That's the interesting thing to note. Fowler stays out, so it might be touch and go for these guys. They'll have to do a little bit of fuel saving. If Fowler can get around again, he will clearly be past the halfway mark. And that is the biggest question here for the GTEs. Tire wear for everybody, but who could make it on one stop? Hayden Fowler had taken over the lead now in the GTE class, going 1 lap further than anyone else. Getting by his teammate, Leighton Cater. And here is Teresiano out of the pits now, coming up on Mark Sonnen. This is a pass for position. Sonnen has not pit yet. And as they go through Brooklands, he will move himself back into 5th place momentarily as we wait for things to cycle through. Seeley coming up behind this, now up in 2nd place. And you can see the lap times up there. It was a 47 dead for Watzik last time by, and a 49.5 as Seeley is trying to negotiate traffic here. That's a slow lap for the 72 based on his performance so far. Fowler is in the pits. I would expect Seidel and Salter as well. There is Seidel coming in behind him, and Salter as well. So the GTE is about to cycle through. Here is Schleicher. Oops, Seeley chose the wrong side. And that is going to be another poor lap time for the 72 as he had to get out of it there and wait for the front straight to get by the GTE race leader. Schleicher and Teresiano back up to 1 and 2. It's a 3-second gap. And just checking the lap times, the pit times, it looks like fuel only for everyone in GTE so far. "26 seconds stopped for Schleicher, 25.6 for Teresiano, 27.9 for Hayden Fowler. Connor Seidel was stopped for 26.6, 26.7 for Salter. Tires for Hensel, 54.4 seconds. So the only GTE car to take tires so far, as Sonnen now coming in for his first stop. Kevin Hensel, he's dropped to 7th, but we'll try and keep track of his lap times as Schwarz puts in the fastest LMP time of this lap, a 47 dead. There is your race leader, Nathan Jew from pole. He had a lot of work to get up there. He has not led this race for very long. But since the pit stops, with Watzik taking tires, Nathan has been released. There is Schwartz, who just put in the fastest lap that time around in the LMP class. And he is also on fresh rubber. Connor Seidel now ahead of Craig Salter. Making that pass in the pits. He was behind him the entire first stint. So a great pit stop there by Seidel to move himself up a position. Nielsen makes it into the pits. He will be the final car to hit pit road. He pits from 4th place in GTE. There is Dean Ellico running in 6th. He's getting the fuel mileage. Fuel not the issue in LMP as it is in GTE. It's a 2-stop race, but certainly any extra laps you can get, that's 3 liters, more than 3 liters of fuel you don't have to put in your last pit stop. So he's about 5 seconds behind Schwarz at the moment. Looks like both those cars took tires. We had 3 cars take tires in LMP. Pit stop times are very interesting. Lars obviously took a full fuel and tires. Schwarz and Ellico looks like they took partial fuel to split the race up. and as well as tires. So they should have a longer final stop. It'll be a short stop for Watzik. He will not have to take as much fuel as everyone else on his final stop. Still watching that gap in LMP as the race leader gets by John Nielsen. 47.7 for Seeley that time around and a 48.2 for Watzik. So the gap is down to 10 seconds. It was 15, you recall, when they came out of the pits. As Craig Salter now coming under pressure from Kevin Hensel. He's seeing that BMW for the first time out of his windscreen and not in the rear view. And now he's got a Corvette right behind him. I'm just checking out. Oh, Dean Ellico had a little fun in club there. That was back on lap 26. As Hensel continues to pressure the 89 Ferrari of Craig Salter. On board with Salter as you see the Corvette in the rear view. We might have a passing attempt here coming down Hangar Straight. Ducks to the inside, back into the toe. And he does make a move into Stowe. And the German is through into 5th place. Andreas Schwartz in the 5th place, the number 204 Delara. Coming up on race leader Alexander Schleicher in the 108 Porsche, the GTE leader. Safely by as he heads down into Maggots. We'll plug the series again. You're seeing the top 16 mid-split drivers here. We're looking to fill up to 50 grid slots for this series. If you're a A or B licensed driver with an I rating between 1,300 and 3,000, come and join us here on the Night Racing League Sports Car Championship. It's a low incident limit series. You can see how precise these guys are. There's no dive bombing, no silly decision makings. It's real racing. As we like to say, why all the top split drivers have all the fun. Look at Teresiano there clipping the curb. Why should all the top split drivers have all the fun? Come and join the series, be on these great broadcasts, and enjoy the spectacular racing here in the Night Racing League. Just go to the league section, search Night, and apply to the league. We'll contact you and get you on the grid for our next race in 2 weeks. That's at Le Mans. That'll be a 2-hour single driver endurance race. There's Dean Ellico collecting himself after a little bit of a spin down in club. As he comes up to our race leader in the GTE class. 30 laps in the books for our leader in LMP, Nathan Jew. Very interesting to see. The setup's clearly a little less downforce on them. I'm just looking at the top speeds. Both Jew and Watzik with 292 km/h top speeds. This is Paul Seeley, the second place car at the moment. Only 284, so an 8 km/h difference in top speed. And that can only be downforce / drag. Schwartz and Ellico also pretty quick, 288 and 286 kilometers respectively. As Lars Watzik continues to try and pull that gap in, but it really has stabilized. He had the newness of the tires when he came out of his first stop, got the gap from 15 down to 10, and now it is stabilized right around that 10-second mark. You can see he only gained just about a 1/10.5 on that last lap on Seeley. Andreas Schwartz does the fastest lap this time around in LMP, a 47.4. So he's still using those new tires. Kevin Hensel now starting to reel in the BMW of Connor Seidel. These two were inseparable in the exhibition races, except for a couple of minor little issues Hensel had. He's got it all together when it counts here today in the first points race, and his old mate is right back in front of him, and they're going to have a ding-dong here for 4th place. Nathan Jew back in the pits. So he's making his second stop. He's clearly... He has clearly split this race into thirds. No tires. So Nathan is going the full race on one set of tires. So we have the first indication of strategy there. Schwarz, Ellico, and Watzik took tires on their first stop. Seeley and Ellico, I believe Ellico also took tires. So it's just Seeley and Nathan Jew who did not take rubber on that first stop. Jaden Manatham-Guerin is in for his final stop. And he is taking rubber on his second stop. You see the car just coming off the jacks in behind. That is Leighton Cater in for his second stop. He's also getting rubber. And Jaden comes right out in the middle of this battle for 4th place. Hensel has to keep it wide. That's only going to help Seidel here, as he'll be able to easily let Jaden by on the Wellington straight. So a little bit of a disadvantage there for Hensel with the timing of that pit release, but what can you do? A puff of smoke from, that was Chris Thompson up front there. Still in the pits is Leighton Cater. He is serving a penalty, we are told, as he is above the incident limit. So the test session, pretty much going as a test session for Leighton. We already told you about how little practice time he had all week. due to unforeseen circumstances and a lightning strike at his house. But plugging through as Kevin Hensel gets himself back on the tail of Connor Seidel. Craig Salter is also having a look here. He's only 2.3 seconds behind this battle. See if we can get a three-way fight here for fourth place. As we enter the final half hour. Thompson gets well out of the way of this battle. As we look up front, just for a second, your race leader will be coming up to this battle. That race leader now the 72 of Paul Seeley. Nathan Jew split this race into 3. And the other drivers obviously taking longer fuel loads. Watzik took tires. That gap now 9 seconds as he starts to make a little inroad, although you can see their last laps practically identical. 47.318 for Seeley, 47.345 for Watzik. It really seems the ebb and flow of traffic is what's affecting this gap more than anything else. As I say that, it drops under 9. Hensel really getting in tight now. He'll have to allow the race leader through. Will he make a duck out? Because they were giving the outside to the LMP, Connor had the defensive line already covered. We thought these two would be inseparable for the whole year, and it really looks like it's going to be. The gap up front, it's now a 6-second gap from Schleicher to Teresiano. Fowler another 8 seconds back of that. This right now, the battle on the racetrack as Kevin Hensel tries to get the upper hand on Seidel, who he hasn't been able to do all season long. We think he had a setup issue at Barcelona. The back end of that car was not looking very handy. And he also had issues at Spa in the first race as everybody tried to get settled and figure out the rules. Watzik coming through past Salter there. But looking back to to my thought, Hensel looking bang on form today when it counts, and he is going to have a look at Copse. Not the smartest place to go through, perhaps. He thought better of it. Maybe just trying to unsettle Connor in the 25 car as Lars Watzik comes through at Maggots and Beckett's. But again, able to allow the faster cars through on the straightaway where it doesn't affect his pace at all. On board with the Canadian. Seidel now has a little bit of clear track. Salter's still 2 seconds behind. see in the top right, Schwarz is coming into the pits. That's going to promote Nathan Jew back into a podium position. This will be his second and final stop. We're on board with Kevin Hensel, who is all over the back of Connor Seidel. It's a battle for 4th place in GTE. Great stuff by both drivers, and he is right there in the tow. We might see a move into Stowe this time. There are no LMPs coming to save Connor. He ducks out. Connor's got the inside, but Kevin will have it for Club, and he is through. It's a crossover. Kevin having nothing of that, and he's got 4th place. Fantastic stuff by both drivers. Paul Seeley now in the pits for his final stop. That's going to promote Lars Watzik to the lead temporarily. Nathan Jew goes by, you just saw on the right of your screen. And Seeley is away again, no tires for the Canadian. Back on board Connor Seidel as he tries to hold on now to the back of Kevin Hensel. Craig Salter is just starting to reel them in a little bit. It's now a 7-second gap there for Schleicher in the 108 Porsche. As our camera jumps around a little bit. Ellico will make his final pit stop, and the LMPs will cycle through here with 22.5 minutes remaining in the race. Lars Watzik back into the race lead where he was off the start for the first 25 minutes. The only one of the leaders to take tires, the top 3, Watzik, Jew, and Seeley. As Watzik comes in now, this is the final stop. We will watch Nathan Jew. He's only 7 seconds back, so he's clearly going to retake the lead. Where will Watzik come out compared to Seeley? He's within the gap. Seeley is clearly going to be in second place. We'll see what that gap is as Jew puts in a 47.4. We're watching what's turning into a battle for 4th place in LMP between Manatham Guerin and Ellico. They are right together now on circuit as they come through Beckett's. And just now moving out of the pits, coming out of the hole that is pit lane, up the hill, and Watzik, he's a long way back. As he also had to do a drive-through penalty, we are told, for incidents. You can see that's his 3rd stop. So that really affects exceeding track limits. And that's given Paul Seeley, you could see, back his 15-second lead that he had after the first round of pit stops. Paul Seeley, the only driver in this race to have 0 incidents to this point of the race. Nathan Jew is your race leader now. The LMPs have cycled through. There is Tristan Teresiano, 8 seconds back. As we're looking at Nathan Jew, he's had an off on lap 34 and contact with the wall. So we didn't see that. That was on lap 34. So that explains why he's only 14 seconds ahead of Seeley now with those lap times he's been putting in. Boy, we didn't pick that one up live. That could have had huge implications on the race. He is still leading, but he's got to have a little bit of front end damage. He's completed 38 laps, so that was 4 laps ago. We're back with Connor Seidel, who is clearly coming under pressure now. Craig Salter now within a second of the BMW. There's your second place LMP car coming through. This is the first race on track for Craig, and showing himself very, very well. Connor Seidel won both of the exhibition races in the GTE class, but we knew things would be far more competitive once we got everybody on track at the same time. It's been a great race in both classes so far. Nathan here in the 81 doesn't seem to be any worse for wear. That was coming out of Aintree. He went wide and lost control. Just clipped the barrier with the right front corner of the car, but you can see he and Seeley both on their original race tires are going the distance. It's still a 48.1 for Nathan and a 48.9, just under a 49. That's a slow lap, so there must have been traffic involved there for Seeley. As his gap back to Watzik, you can see, is now 11 seconds. With 16 minutes to go, that might be safe. The fastest LMP that time around was Schwarz, who did another 1:47.0. The battle on the circuit right now is that one, which we just cut away from, Connor Seidel, and this man, Craig Salter. And I think Craig is getting ready to set up a pass. Connor goes defensive as the third place LMP gets up in their mirrors. He's through no problem, but it is a move into Village. Connor's going to hold him off. Sorry, that's Village there. He's definitely close enough to maybe have a peek as they head down to Brooklands. down on the inside. Not quite enough to get it done there, but he's certainly got the BMW in defensive driving mode. Less than 15 minutes to go in this 90-minute season opener in the Night Racing League Sports Car Championship. There's your race leader, Nathan Jew, in the 81 Dallara P217. Second place, Paul Seeley in the 72. 14.3 seconds down the road. And he's now stretched a 12-second gap over Lars Votzik as Salter is again in the tow as they head down the Hangar Straight. No look there. We'll do a quick race rundown for you. As your race leader there, he is Nathan Jew. He has, as we said, a 14-second lead over the Canadian in the 72, Paul Seeley. Third place, Lars Votzik, the Exhibition 2 race winner in the number 31. Jaden Manathan-Guerin in the 777 runs in fourth. Ahead of Dean Ellico, the closest battle right there. You can see fourth, fifth, and sixth all together. There is Andreas Schwartz in his first race. And he's got fresher tires. So we'll watch that. The GTE class is led by Alexander Schleicher in the number 108 Porsche RSR. With an 8-second lead now over the 64 of Tristan Teresiano. Hayden Fowler in the 28. There you see that gap as he's closing in now on the two in front of him. After a great battle, Kevin Hensel is in fourth place as he got ahead of the 25 of Connor Seidel, who is still fending off the 89 of Craig Salter in the Ferrari. Mark Sonnen runs in seventh in the number 3 Corvette C8R ahead of John Nielsen, who is just 6 seconds up the road in the 54. Chris Thompson runs ninth in his RSR, and the test session continues for Leighton Cater, who we'll see a lot more pace from at Le Mans in 2 weeks. Meanwhile, back in behind, it is Connor Seidel, the battle for fifth. We've also got that battle we're watching, that gap between Alico and Schwartz. Schwartz is still the fastest LMP on circuit at the moment, turning mid to low 47s. And he's got 11 minutes to try and grab himself 2 positions. That battle very, very tight. And they are coming up behind this battle as well. We just came out of Luffield. A little bit of a flash there. Not sure what he's flashing a car in front of him for a position for, but just make sure that doesn't get excessive. The lap times, well, he was a second quicker than Seidel last time around. There you see just in the background that battle for 4th, 5th, and 6th in LMP. As Seidel goes defensive again as they head down to Stowe. That could give a better entry line for Salter. but he backs off. There you see the battle coming up. There's Manathan Guerin. Getting out of the way is Cater as he heads to the pits. But all three of these LMP cars battling for position, coming up to the closest battle for position in GTE right in front of them. Oh, and in contact. Ellico hits the back of Salter. I don't see any damage. He's through. Schwarz has gotten by Manathan Guerin now, who has dropped to 6th place. He lost 2 positions in that. Absolutely no damage on the back of that Ferrari. As we get a look now, on board Ellico. Oh, and that was netcode. Well, that explains why there's no damage. There was you could clearly see space between those cars, but a little bit of netcode knocked the back of Salter's car there. He hasn't really lost out. I mean, he's just now 9/10 of a second behind. So we'll see. With that now past him, he will, he's got lots of clear track behind him. He won't have to worry about people coming up, and he can get that move made on Seidel if he has it in him. Your race leader, Nathan Jew, with a 14.6 second gap. He's been keeping that pretty consistent. He's on old tires. He and Paul Seeley in second place on their race start tires, so with a 14-second gap, just keeping it under him. No need to push it. We hope you've enjoyed this first race of the Night Racing League Sports Car Championship. Plenty of grid slots available if you're a mid-split driver on iRacing and want to do some competitive, clean endurance racing. Come and contact us. Contact one of the administrators. You'll see their names at the end of the broadcast. Give us a PM, or the easiest thing to do, just go to the Night Racing League in the league section of iRacing. Apply, and we will contact you and get you on the grid. This is race 1 of 8. And we race in 2 weeks at Le Mans, a 2-hour single-driver endurance race. This is Andreas Schwarz now up in 5th. They have left Jaden Manathan Guerin a little ways behind, and he's still harassing Dean Ellico in the 429 for 4th place. You can also see no evidence of any damage on that corner for Dean, as unfortunately a little netcode. He did go for that inside lane, but no contact, and the stewards have said there is no further action for a netcode incident. Andreas trying to make it to the top 4. He did. He qualified in 4th place. Dean Ellico was the 6th place qualifier, so he's up 2 positions. Andreas now. Dean driving a little defensively as we head into Brooklands. and just a slide. Alico has to go wide. That was Hayden Fowler. And that puts the battle on, as Schwartz will get by Alico. A power slide through Copse. Alico had to bail out. They both had to bail out, but boy, oh boy. That brings Jaden back into play here for 5th place. But Andreas Schwartz up to 4th. Boy, that was close. Hayden Fowler has caught the back of Tristan Teresiano. This battle now just over 10 seconds behind Schleiter in 1st. As you can see, the lap times have dipped all the way into the 2-minute mark there. So very old rubber here. Hayden having a great race in the 28. Craig Salter has pitted, and that is a drive-through on incidents, and that's going to drop him to 8th place. Track limits are enforced here, 8x, and then every 6. We have never had a driver have 2 drive-throughs in a race. It's never happened. But we have had some have drive-throughs here. It's one of the things that makes this racing so competitive and realistic. These guys have to drive as if in real life. And in every race we have one. Today we have had 3 drive-throughs, but it's never really an issue. Everybody's signed on. They would rather have clean, competitive racing where track limits are enforced, so you have to drive like in real life. And they're doing a great job here today. You see very few incidents. And to a man, everybody on the grid loves the format. Jaden Manothan Guerin dropped all the way to 6th place. Here is Tristan Teresiano. There's Andreas Schwartz, who was in 6th, and after that incredibly exciting couple of laps of hounding Dean Alico, he's now got himself up into 4th. There's Alico, and it's now coming by the 66 of Chris Thompson. And he has dropped back. You can see Jaden is more of a threat to him now than he is to Schwartz. Schwartz has been putting in the fast laps for the class. You can see another 47.0. He's got fresher tires than everyone. But he's not, that's going to be as far as he can get. As we're coming down now, just under 2 minutes. Cater back out on circuit, getting out of the way of this. Here is your race leader in LMP. That is Nathan Jew. On his way, it looks like, to take the opening round in the Night Racing League Sports Car Championship. He's maintained that 15-second gap between 14 and 15 for the last 20 minutes over Paul Seeley. Teresiano on board. The closest battle on the circuit at the moment. The battle for 2nd in GTE. As the clock is going to wind down here. Next time by, Nathan will get the white flag. And he's just now coming out of Stowe Corner, so it will be 1 lap to go. We cut back to this battle for second place. They are gaining on Schleicher, who I guess is probably just controlling that gap. It was a 2:01.7 the last time around, so 2.5 seconds these guys gained on the race leader. There he is, just now coming towards Copse. And you can see just barely in that little TV screen the battle for second in behind him. As Nielsen has passed Sonnen. Get a quick look at what happened there. On board with John Nielsen. Sonnen into a power slide, and he is through. That happening at Stowe. So 6th place for the American in the 54. This is Nathan Jew coming through Maggots and Beckett's. Andreas Schwartz is in the pits. And so is the GTEs have all pitted for fuel. First, second, and third on the final lap. There is Nathan Jew. He comes by to win round 1 in the Night Racing League Sports Car Championship. It is all happening here. Paul Seeley will finish second. Schleicher, Teresiano, and Fowler in the pits. You can see Fowler coming out. Pit road speed penalties for Schleicher and Teresiano. Unbelievable. They are stopped for 40 seconds, and that is going to give Hayden Fowler second place in the GTE class. There he is out of the pits. All 3 cars had to pit for fuel on the last lap. You saw Connor Seidel behind the race winner, Nathan Jew. These guys were not yet passed. They had to do an extra lap, and they all had to take fuel. And Schleicher and Teresiano taking pit road speed penalties as they entered too quickly. What a finish in the GTE class. There's Schleicher, who has gotten out in second. Teresiano is third. You see the LMPs are done behind him. These guys took the white flag on pit road. So they are still racing. I've never seen anything like that. Meanwhile, Watzik finished third. Ellico fourth. Well, let's just make sure we get our... because they're finished. Those are updating. But with the race long over for the LMPs, here comes Hayden Fowler in the 28 Corvette to win the GTE class. The most incredible finish I've seen in a race. Hayden Fowler wins at Silverstone. There is Alexander Schleicher, who led this race from the start. Qualified on pole. And he's going to come home second in the 108 car. A fantastic race. And as it is in these competitive races, one mistake can cost you, and it cost both Schleicher and Teresiano here today, as Teresiano will come home in 3rd place after a spectacular race. Unbelievable stuff. So here is your race finish. Here are your LMP results as Nathan Jew wins the season opener here at Silverstone. Paul Seeley 2nd, Lars Watzik in 3rd. Ellico finishes 4th ahead of Andreas Schwartz and Jaden Manathan Guerin. The GTE class, an incredible finish. Hayden Fowler wins over Alexander Schleitzer and Tristan Teresiano. That's your podium. Connor Seidel comes home in 4th place ahead of John Nielsen, Mark Sonnen. Kevin Hensel drops all the way down to 7th place, having to get fuel late. Chris Thompson 8th ahead of Craig Salter and Leighton Cater. What an incredible race, and let's talk to our race winners. We're joined by the LMP2 race winner, Nathan Jew. How was that for a first race?
It felt good. Yeah, it's nice to come out and win the first one for sure. Hopefully we can take that momentum into Le Mans. I actually, I like Le Mans. I actually really dislike Silverstone. I think I'm always quite terrified every single time going through club, and I crashed quite a few times in the first fast right-hander during practice, so a little scary going around that track, but yeah, definitely glad that I could keep it together for 90 minutes.
What about the tire wear, actually? Because you did have that.
Yeah, I went into the race planning on taking tires on my 2nd stop, but things felt good, and I figured that it just wouldn't make sense to take tires. I didn't actually check what my wear was at either pit stop. I just forgot. But yeah, I mean, there was definitely a point, I think, at some point in the middle of the 2nd stint when my car was quite heavy with fuel. I figured, let's try and back off the pace a little bit, save the tires, and I think it paid off because, yeah, I didn't really have too many issues with the tires. I think I can't blame my spin on the tire wear. I think that was just a lapse in concentration from me. But yeah, tires were surprisingly a non-issue. I thought it would be really hard to get to the end, but it was not so bad.
Yeah, it looked like that was the strategy again, as we found in the exhibition races. If you can maintain that tire wear, you're going to have a good shot at it.
Yeah, so the key was just not to push too hard when it wasn't necessary.
Well, it was a great race, and right from qualifying right through, and congratulations on the win.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
See you at Le Mans. And we are here with the surprise winner in GTE. What a finish. Hayden Fowler. You've won the first race. Tell us about it.
I knew coming in it was going to be tight on fuel, so like 10 laps in, my fuel usage was like 5-10 higher than expected. So I started saving fuel, and then the end of the first stint I was able to do an extra lap. And then did my pit stop, and I came out in 3rd, probably like 10 seconds back. And I saved fuel for the first 5-10 laps, and then looked at it, and I'm like, okay, I can push now. I was in the clear. Well, last lap comes around, and like I knew the two Porsches had a pit because they pitted a lap before I did, so there's no way that they were going to make it on fuel. So we all went into the pit stops, and I guess they were caught speeding in the pit lane, but I slowed the car down enough, and yeah.
How tight was it? We heard a lot of that on the Discord after the race. That the GTEs really had to save a lot of fuel, like a few laps, or how bad was it?
I was only expecting to do 45 laps, and we did 37.
So 2 extra laps based on the testing. Okay, wow.
Yeah, I knew I could go 36 laps if I saved a bit, and that's what I did. And then we had to do an extra lap, so I went in the pits and got some fuel. And it was so tight that the first stint that I pitted, I ran out of fuel for my pit box. And then when we pitted on the last lap, I ran out of fuel for my pit box.
Wow, so that's how tight it was. But it all worked out in the end. and a fantastic first win as we head off to the next race at Le Mans. Are you looking forward to that?
Yes, I don't like Silverstone that much, but I certainly do like Le Mans.
That seems to be the feeling, the same thing from our race winner in LMP2. Nathan said the same thing. Well, if you can be on a track you don't like and take away a race win, that's a pretty good day. So congratulations, and we'll see you at Le Mans in 2 weeks.
Yep.
Hayden Fowler, your race winner in GTE here at Silverstone. Well, a great season opener here at Silverstone. I hope you enjoyed it. Join us for the next race as we head to the Circuit de la Sarthe at Le Mans for a 2-hour race. And we'd love to have you with us. If you're a mid-split driver, come and join us here at the Night Racing League. Thanks for watching us here, and congratulations to Nathan Jew and Hayden Fowler for their wins in the season opener. Join us in 2 weeks at Le Mans.